but there were trees. Do you remember? Do you remember we started under a tree? We're ending under a tree. Do you get it? It's a parallel.
Yeah.
we call in the business we call those bookends.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Pot of the Seven Kingdoms, a journey through the Dunk and Egg novellas by George R.R. Martin. I am Baki Balboa.
And I am Bilak, and we are finishing our read of the first novella in the Knight of Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight.
We did it.
We did it. We're
and
sad.
You did it. We did it, and you did it. If you're listening to this,
yes.
You also accomplished.
You out there did it, and you out there probably are also sad. So for this section, we started on the bottom of 108, just after the break, and then went all the way to the end of the chapter that ends with, "I hear they have good puppet shows," and everything was fine, and everyone was happy. And that's it. Episode over, right? Like that's what happened.
I know we're gonna get into it, but like, just in terms of like this story in general, the Hedge Knight, how this is just such a goddamn good story. Like,
it is. I will say though, I was promised a happy magical romp. And we started with a guy dying, and we're ending with a guy dying, and I don't know where my magical romp happens.
Yeah, the whimsy, you really have to grasp it as it occurs. Really seize the moment of the whimsy.
Exactly.
This is certainly not the happy ending that we were all hoping for, potentially, but it's
so thematically significant.
100%.
It says so many themes. Okay, I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
But so I mean, fantastic book, and we could certainly talk about the whole thing. But let's analyze this section, and then we 100%. Can do like a look back. So the battle had just ended. The Trial of Seven had just ended, and Dunk is like in a daze because he just got like the shit beat out of him, and like he did successfully beat the shit out of Arion, but he also got the shit beat out of him. So he's like, whoa, like, and he would get like a lance through the side and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like this boy's bleeding out, like it's a problem.
Yeah.
But one of the very first things he thinks, which I think is just so awesome, he says, "I am a knight now in truth. Am I a champion?"
Yeah.
Why are you wondering if you're a knight, Dunk? I thought you were knighted by your master before he died.
Could have swore. Yeah, he just, and it, he thinks that for no reason at all. He just forgot that a knight who forgot his vows because he got bonked over the head.
He did get bonked pretty hard.
But he starts to kind of have to take in, because one of his great worries as he's in the process of defeating Arion and dragging him across the field to get him to withdraw his accusation, is that he won't finish it in time for there to not be harm caused to the other people who chose to fight for him.
Yeah.
And now he learns sort of the price of this trial in terms of who was either wounded or killed. And it is the Humphreys, unfortunately, who pay the steepest price. So I know you've paid tribute with your shirt today to Humphrey.
My bee shirt, yeah.
Humphrey Beesbury.
My boy Beesbury. Buzz on, friend. Buzz on.
Yeah. It was
that's their house words. Buzz on.
Buzz on. Yeah. And Humphrey
so
Harding.
He's dead, yeah.
Humphrey Beesbury is dead, and Humphrey Harding seriously wounded, and to the point of like they're pretty much worried that he he entered the fight with a broken leg, so to be wounded beyond that is obviously pretty significant. And then we get the word that there was a Kingsguard who was carried from the field by two of his brothers, but we don't know which is which, like, because they're all obviously all wearing the same thing. And then our boy Daron
got unhorsed and then laid on the ground pretending to be dead. And then the text says he may have a broken foot. His own horse trod on him while running loose about the field, which is like God damn it, George, coming at me with giving me one sentence of so many themes, and we will come back to this horse trotting. But Daren's alive. He
is.
May have maybe injured from his own cowardice. I get it, George. I get it.
Yeah. And outside of the themes, there is something inherently comedic about someone being like, okay, I won't be harmed because I'll just fall off my horse and then act unconscious. And then your out of control horse trampling on you and you having to act like everything is fine and you're still unconscious because even though the horse just stepped on your foot and maybe stomped on you. So
that's really funny to think about.
Yeah, where he like had to continue to pretend, where it's like, do I seek help for my foot or do I just continue to lay here and hope it ends soon?
He's just like scrunching his face up with his foot being broken. He's like, I'm unconscious, I'm unconscious, I'm unconscious, I'm unconscious.
Like trying not to scream.
Yeah.
So Daron, in addition to the themes, trot on by his horse. And George maybe trotting on us in terms of it really hitting us over the head with the symbolism here.
I get it, George. I don't need it anymore, George. Please stop.
Yeah.
And then Dunk is like, wait, did I kill Arion? Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, didn't you read the page before this? You spared him. And Dunk's like, right.
I remember now not killing him.
Right, exactly. I remember doing that. Yep. And so Dunk is like, oh, the dream, like the dragon dream was wrong because we'd had that dream about a dead dragon and Dunk potentially being the cause. And he's like, oh, I didn't kill any dragons. Awesome. Love that for me. And then they start sort of treating his lance wound. It's really bad. Someone initially says that they have to pour boiling oil on it. And I was like, oh my God, don't pour boiling oil on it. And the next line is, no, don't pour boiling oil, boiling wine. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if they went and got like a pot of boiling oil and like burned Dunk?
Yep.
Yeah. But the person who advises them to use wine, not oil, is our good boy Baelor.
Who's
fine.
Here.
He's here. He has all of his head. And he's fine.
Yeah, he has his like it says that his armor's been dinted and scarred by many blows, and we know that when Dunk's like last view of him was that he was fighting Maekar along with Lionel Baratheon. So the two of them were fighting against Maekar. And so he's like his armor's covered by many blows or with the marks of many blows, and the scarlet dragon on his helm had lost a head, both wings, and most of its tail. So we saw it with Arion's helmet. Dunk obviously smashes the dragon like completely to pieces off of the top of his helm. And similarly, Baelor had lost a decent portion of the red dragon on the top of his it's technically his son's helm, I guess. But taking quite the beating, despite the fact that when we saw him, it seemed like he was more or less I guess winning his duels in terms of driving the Kingsguard from the field,
because the Kingsguard couldn't attack him, right? So as far as Dunk saw, the only person potentially attacking him was Maekar,
right?
Based on what Dunk saw.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that and theories and ideas. So Baelor is like, we'll get a maester to tend to you, and then Dunk is like, Your Grace, I'm your man. Please, your man. And Baelor says, my man, I need the good men, Sir Duncan, the realm. And then he kind of starts slurring his speech and getting woozy. And he asks for help taking off his helmet. And Raymond and Pate go to get it off, but it's like dented in the back, so it's kind of hard to get it off. So they kind of have to pull it off.
Yeah.
And when they pull it off, And Baelor thinks it's that the dent was caused by his brother's mace, so he thinks it was caused by Maekar's mace. But he said, like, as they're pulling it off, Baelor says, like, I don't feel good, basically. And they pull off the helmet, and out fall Baelor's brains.
Yeah, this is,
and it's really bad.
It's like it's among a lot of really gruesome writing that George has done in his time. It is the description of something that is inherently like not violent, in that it's someone removing a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's caused by a violent act, but it is like the description here is truly like something that will live with me for the rest of my life. Like, it is just something that this the way this is presented is, it obviously it's done, George builds it up because of the shock value of this, where it's like Baelor's fine, Baelor's good, everyone's good, like, and it is only once he like removes the helm that it's revealed just how bad the damage is. It is fatal. His skull's been completely like crushed by the by a blow. And the last description is like a queer troubled look passed across Baelor Breakspear's face like a cloud passing before a sun. He raised his hand and touched the back of his head with two fingers, oh so lightly, and then he fell. And that is, Dunk catches him, and he
Dunk catches him with all of his brains.
And he said, he tried to say up to him like he had said to Thunder during the fight, his horse, and and it is there that Baelor dies in Dunk's arms, basically. Dunk of Fleabottom holding the hand of the king and the heir to the Iron Throne.
Baelor, House Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, hand of the king, protector of the realm, and heir apparent to the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros.
Oh, yeah. This is just like, it's such a brutal passage for so many reasons. And I think like the first and foremost, and the reason it's so effective is obviously like partially because of the shock, but also the fact that this is a character that over the course of 3 scenes, like, and a handful of spoken lines of dialogue, because of the strong characterization, which we talked about previously, and particularly with Baelor, his like kindness and like the way that he treats Dunk being so differentiated amongst all of these characters. It's why you can make a character that you have seen on page for a fraction of the 100 or so pages of this novella. It still hits as hard as any of the character. Like, I really do put it up there with some of the character deaths that happen in the main series. Like, obviously not to the same extent as, some in terms of how much time you spent with them practically, but in terms of feeling impacted by the death of Baelor Breakspear, it does have a significant weight despite the brief time that we actually spend on page with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think part of that is because it seems so inherently unfair.
Yeah.
Because like Baelor was doing the right thing. Dunk was doing the right thing. Baelor was doing the right thing. And the only people who die are on Dunk's side. One of them being like the guy who like came in clutch at the last minute, right? Who like made it even possible for this melee to happen. Because it was like his idea originally. And like he came in and was Dunk's 7th. And no one, I think, in reading the previous sections, no one really worried about Baelor's safety. Like, it was kind of assumed he would come out of it okay.
Right.
Dunk was more worried about everyone else because everyone else is like not as seasoned of a knight or already injured or whatever, what have you. But no one was really worried that like the idea that Baelor could die, and like we can get into this too in terms of themes with like classism, but like the idea that Baelor, the crown prince, could be killed in something like a melee. It's just like it's not fathomable, you know? Yeah.
We even get into he sort of emphasizes that in that description. Like you talked about the sort of string of titles for Baelor, and it says for his funeral, which is held, they do the Targaryen funeral rites of the fire, and it says like he went to the fire in the yard of Ashford Castle on the north bank of River Cockleswent. And so it's sort of emphasizing how sort of absurd it is for a person that carries this string of titles and these honoraries to their name, or honorifics to their name, is being put on a funeral pyre at Castle Ashford, which is a dot on a map compared to you know the major keeps and castles of the Seven Kingdoms. And as someone who of a house that it's assumed, you know, they are however many times it said like closer to gods and men and all this sort of stuff, like it's maybe, you know, we'll talk more about the themes here, but there's more of the exceptionalism being sort of undercut here by the fact that he's going to the flames in a random ass castle in the Reach, right? Like and that's any of us can meet that, you know, that same fate like at any time. There's nothing special about someone with his titles, but they do. I do find it interesting that they immediately do sort of the Targaryen funeral rites there, and there is no sort of a passage of his remains back to King's Landing or something like that. They do.
Yeah, I wonder if they send the ashes back to inter them, because the Targaryen ashes are interred in the Sept of Baelor, I think, if I recall correctly. Right. But it's interesting because, like what you're saying in that paragraph, they start with all of his titles, and then they're like, and he was burned on the north bank of the River Cockleswent, like this random ass river that's just here. Yeah. But then the paragraph kind of tries to like make up for that, and it's like, well, other great houses might bury their dead or might consign them to the sea, but Targaryens were the blood of the dragon, so their end was written flame. Yeah. As if like no one's ever cremated a corpse before the fucking Targaryens. Like they didn't come up with that shit. That's something people have done. Yep. But it's like supposed to be like, oh, it's still special because he's blood of the dragon. And that means something, actually. We promise.
It's it's a, I think the description of it is great, and I just love that there is this sort of absurdity, you know, speaking to the unfairness of Baelor's death, and maybe just the unexpected nature of the prince dying in something like this. It is completely like emphasized in that next paragraph of just how sort of absurd the whole scene is. That being said, there's also some interesting description of his, you know, which I think we'll maybe get into later, but there's some description of how he is clothed in for the funeral, and specifically he's not clad in armor or anything like that for the funeral. Like they don't depict him as specifically a warrior. They strictly do a doublet with the three-headed dragon of the Targaryen. He's got his the chain of his office, I think, is he's wearing.
Is that what it's supposed to be? It just says a heavy golden chain. I wasn't sure if it was.
I wasn't sure if it was like Dunk maybe not knowing what it was. Like I wasn't sure if it was meant to be like, oh, and he had a big gold chain around his neck. Like
he had a dank gold chain. Yeah. Like, I kind of thought that was sort of a wealth kind of thing. Like, you know, we're so wealthy we can just burn it because gold melts. So
right, we just melt a gold chain.
We're just gonna melt this big old gold chain because we're so rich, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they wanted it to match the gold helmet. They had to keep a gold helmet on him because his brains had fallen out.
Yeah.
So he needed to have his head covered.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I don't know what the corpse dresser person in Westeros decided, but it worked out. I do have a complaint, and this is directly to George R. R. Martin because obviously he listens. This description of A three-headed dragon picked out in scarlet thread upon his breast. Okay. George often uses this phrase picked out when he's describing some type of either beadwork or embroidery on dresses or tunics or whatever.
Sure.
Beadwork and pearl work, I can kind of understand. Like you sort of pick out the pearls like in that kind of way. But just like regular thread embroidery, as a person, I embroider. So as a person who embroiders, I'm like, I would never describe that as the thread, like the dragon being picked out in thread. Like, doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's not picked out. It's thread is added to the tunic. It's not, there's no picking. I'm confused. Right. And so, George, I would like you to not do that anymore. Thank you. That's my submission.
Shelve the term picked out.
So I mean, George R. R. Martin, I have one thing to say to him. I'm like, don't do this.
Yeah. It's like,
it makes me specifically mad.
Shit, now I have to restart wins.
The White Walkers had their tunics picked out in ice thread. Oh no.
Yep.
Start from the beginning.
It's over.
Shit.
We get some Valar.
Yes.
Because Valar, obviously, you know, his dad comes and gets his armor to go fight, and now his dad's dead. This is well, we get some more description, I guess, of Valar first, in the fact that he is described as having that he was a shorter, slimmer, handsomer version of his sire, without the twice broken nose that had made Baelor seem more human than royal.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thing to include, like, or an interesting way to, I guess, talk about,
because
like, without just saying like his nose was straight compared to his father's that had been broken.
Right, because I think that what George is driving at is so much of this Targaryens are better than us thing is just visual. So this whole paragraph is about that, right? Like Baelor's nose having been broken made him look quote unquote common, as if there's a way to look common, right? Like the classism is so entrenched in their brains that like Dunk would even think something like that. And it kind of goes along with the description of Valar, because he's like, you know, Valar's hair was brown, but a bright streak of silver gold ran through it. The sight of it, the streak, reminded Dunk of Aerion, but he knew that was not fair. Egg's hair was growing back as bright as his brother's, and Egg was a decent enough lad for a prince.
Yeah.
So what Dunk is dealing with there is the fact that this quote unquote Targaryen look of having like the silver blonde hair or the silver gold blonde hair, whatever, he's associating with Aerion, who's a bad person.
Right.
And a violent person.
Sure.
And a person who wields power against others to put them down. But then he's countering himself, like he's in his own mind saying, well, it's not fair to assume Valar is like Aerion because he also has a streak of the same hair. Not because it's stupid to assume that about someone by their hair color, but because Egg also has the same hair color, and therefore it can be good.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's so entrenched in him that appearance reflects like your worth and what you're going to be like. So he has to kind of do mental gymnastics through that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting to when you said like how entrenched the classism is. I think we also in the main series get like Cersei talking about how a noble lady versus like some common girl, and how like a noble woman obviously is more attractive than a commoner. When in reality, it's like, okay, well, they can dress well and they can like have fashion of the time and maybe makeup or whatever, whatever like things that they have to be able to enhance it, versus like a common person who could easily have like physical features that are attractive in the same way that any person can have, right? Like,
right, exactly.
Like it's not an inherently noble thing that says like, oh, you must have X amount of dollars before you
before you are attractive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the whole Targaryen exceptionalism. It's kind of, in a eugenics-y kind of circle where like that's what feudalism and classism require. They require you to think that people have innate worth and those worths are different.
Right.
and like the noble people are better, and they're better because they're so pretty. Look at how pretty they are. No, you can't possibly be that pretty if you're a commoner. What are you talking about? Like,
right.
Which is
You
just
should
fucking stupid.
aspire to us.
Right, exactly.
You shouldn't think that you are good.
Right, you're not as good as us, and therefore we should control everything.
Yeah.
And we're exceptional and can marry our sisters. Don't ask questions.
Right.
So Valar is very unhappy with Dunk.
Yeah.
Which, like,
I kind of get it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
it is like one of the time where I know like much of this podcast has been like, these fucking nobles like they need to quit cry assing everywhere and just deal with their shit. And like, do you know like what the problems of other people are like? And then it's like, this kid's dad died like essentially because this fight happened, and like Dunk isn't the person that should be getting the bulk of the blame, but I can understand why he's like, I don't want to fucking talk to you at my dad's funeral.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that's a sign that Valar is like solely blaming Dunk. I'm sure he's like smart enough to know, and I'm sure he talked to his dad about this in advance, stuff like that. So like, I'm sure he knows that like it's really Arion's fault, but like, he's like, my dad died and you lived,
Right.
He says, be gone with you, Sir Duncan, be gone. My father was only 9 and 30. He had it in him to be a great king, the greatest since Aegon the dragon. Why would the gods take him and leave you?
Yeah.
Which is like, that is also classism. And we can talk more about that. But like, Valar is an agent of the classism here. He is a prince, and I guess now he's next in line. Because we learned from the Dance of the Dragons that you have to go down the first son's line.
Yeah. If there are sons available, they just keep going. Like, they don't go back like a generation, or they don't go lateral within a generation, it seems.
Right. Yeah.
I think and with it being definite classism, it's just one of those things where he's asking sort of the normal question that a young person asks when someone dies, which is like, why was it this person when they're like, he specifically asked Dunk because it's Dunk, right? And there is this classist aspect, but it like, he kind of like, I think there's an aspect of he means like, why literally anybody? Like, why was it like it could have been anybody? And I think, there's a lot of there's a lot there just in terms of like Dunk is also, he's such a good guy because I think he knows that he's gonna get, like, he's not gonna get a pat on the back from this interaction, right? Like, but he has to say something because this is Dunk's like kind streak of just like, I have to apologize and just say like offer my condolences, even though I know this guy is probably going to give me shit about this.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been easier for him to say nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so then he goes and he's thinking about it, and Dunk says the world made no sense when a great prince died, so a hedge knight might live. And in our notes, I think I put all hedge knights matter, because you also matter, Dunk. It's not a question of which one of us should have died. Well, he's a prince, he shouldn't have, when I'm just a hedge knight. Like, that's that's that feudalism, that classism built in there, where it's like this prince was innately better than me and more important, and therefore should have lived. Like, all human life is equal. And that's definitely one of the themes that George is pushing here. And then Dunk goes and sits beneath an elm. He sits beneath a tree. And do you remember the beginning of the story? Hey, reader.
Yeah.
You remember the beginning tree? You remember the first tree? You remember? there was a tree. I wonder what kind of tree it was. If it says I don't think it says what kind of tree it was. But there were trees. Do you remember? Do you remember we started under a tree? We're ending under a tree. Do you get it? It's a parallel.
Yeah.
we call, in the business, we call those bookends. It helps you think about how the character has changed over time.
Right. One way in which he has not changed is he is still doing his whole like open sky camping thing, because I just find it very funny that at the next like 4 guardsmen, royal guardsmen show up, so specifically Targaryen guards. They appear in his camp, which is just a very funny way to say they come to his tree, because because he still does not
where is that big boy? Oh, there is a big boy by a tree. That must be him. Let's go.
There's not a tent. Like, I mean, he's still just out in the woods. So yeah, and he sat with his back to the elm waiting, and he's convinced that it's over. Like, he's like, okay, they probably just decided to kill me after all because I've caused enough trouble. And it's like,
where does he get this idea from? Like, you won the battle.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just a lot of like internalized guilt and structural sort of issues here. But he gets told by the guardsman that our prince begs the favor of a private word, and he's like, what prince?
He's like, which one? He's like, there are too many Targaryen princes in this book.
Yeah.
Which
and
prince?
And it turns out
one is dead. I know it can't be him, but which one?
That doesn't narrow it down a ton. There are so many. And it turns out that it is Maekar.
Yep.
The father of Aerion and Egg, and the brother of Baelor, who shows up at Dunk's camp to have a discussion with him. And this is a very, like, I found this the first time I read it. I found it this time. I will find it every time to be like this is a fascinating exchange.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of things going on here beyond what's just said between the two characters. And while there is a lot said, I really find this to be like a really fascinating exchange. And and it starts with essentially Maekar saying, like, the first thing is like, I've sent Aerion away.
Yeah. He's like, in timeout in the Free Cities for a few years. Yes.
Yeah. I've sent him to least. But I find that like so interesting, because I absolutely thought that this exchange was going to start with like, hey, you attacking my son got my brother killed. Right? Like, whether or not it's, because Maekar has all kinds of stuff going on with Baelor's death, but it's really interesting to me that he starts with, hey, I sent the bad kid away.
Yeah, because it's Maekar doing a few things. It's him acknowledging to Dunk that Maekar knows Aerion was the problem.
Yeah.
And I think it's also sort of an olive branch to Dunk to be like, you're safe. Yeah. Like, crazy Aerion is out of the picture right now. You don't have to worry about him like rolling up and like doing some extrajudicial shit, because he would.
It's a genuine concern. That's what I mean. Like, as soon as that fight ended, if I'm Dunk, I'm just like, Aerion's gonna come in here to the Maester's chamber and slit my throat. Like,
he totally would if he could. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think it was it's fascinating that Maekar decided to do that, because that tells us that Maekar understands that he was not fighting on the just side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we talk about what Maekar says next, because it's very, like, again, very interesting, I do think that it's extremely funny that Dunk includes the thought of him, like, him saying to himself, like, he'd never been to the Free Cities. Like, as if that was something that we ever thought for 1 second that he'd been. And like,
I would have been shocked if it was like, Dunk did a summer abroad in the Free Cities and learned all about Lee. Like, like, this guy.
Yeah, Dunk speaks crude, like, Free Cities Valyrian. Conversationally, he can order a scone in Valyrian.
Yeah, he did his Valyrian Duolingo, and he got 3 credits for going there.
But yeah, I just think it's a really funny, like, I know it's like probably a throwaway, but it's very funny to me that he just thinks like, I've never been, and it's like, yeah, we fucking know.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So then Prince Maekar starts talking about how Baelor died. So what we know is Baelor died from a head wound. Baelor thought it was from Maekar's mace.
Mace, yeah.
Maekar also thinks it's from his mace. So Maekar says, someone will say, I meant to kill my brother. The gods know it is a lie, but I will hear the whispers till the day I die. And it was my mace that dealt the fatal blow, I have no doubt. The only other foes he faced in the melee were 3 Kingsguard, whose vows forbade them to do any more damage or any more than defend themselves. So it was me. Strange to say, I do not recall the blow that broke his skull. Is that a mercy or a curse? Some of both, I think. Really interesting.
Yeah.
So many questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think first it's like he knows, and I mean he says out loud that he didn't mean to. Which I think on a certain level is probably true. Like in terms of I'm sure he wasn't thinking like, this is my chance, I get to kill Baelor, right? Like there's nothing
it's not like he doesn't get anything for it.
There's nothing that ever strikes anybody that Maekar is doing this out of some kind of like sick power grab or like something like that, where he's trying to like skip his brother in the succession, because he's not even in line anyway. Like Baelor already has kids. So there's I don't doubt for a second that Maekar isn't, doing something truly nefarious and thinking like, this is my chance to kill my brother. And there's a certain level of like, if you swing a mace hard enough to cave in a helm and kill someone, like you're not pulling. It's not like he was not trying to kill him. Like, because if he was not trying to kill him, he wouldn't have been hitting him that damn hard. Like he would have been, maybe aiming for the body or whatever. Like the fact that he swung a mace at his brother's head with enough force to kill him suggests that there is at least some, even subconsciously, there was some kind of intent to do enough damage to Baelor to either like hurt him severely or kill him.
Unless Maekar isn't the one that killed him.
Oh, are we saying Kingsguard assassination plot?
No. Here I have a theory I submit, and I did go back and read the previous section. It is possible. Okay. I submit that Arion killed him.
This is interesting.
Okay, because in the previous section, Arion is very much all over Dunk, but there are 2 moments where Dunk does not have him in his view. A mace is a long stick with a spiky ball at the end, pretty much. A morning star is a long stick with a chain with a spiky ball. They do the same kind of damage. They're both blunt force instruments. They're wielded differently, but they do the same kind of damage. They both cave in helmets. That's what they're designed for.
Yeah, we'd call it bludgeoning damage in D&D, I think.
Bludgeoning damage, sorry.
I was just laughing at like the damage type.
You need a higher dex for the morning star, but yeah. Sure. The reason I thought this was because of the line, I have sent Arion to Lys.
Yeah.
If Maekar knew that during the kerfuffle, Arion delivered just a singular blow, even if it was like I'm running past you, smack you, kind of keep going sort of thing. If Maekar knew that Arion was the one who delivered the killing blow to the Crown Prince, and not only killed the Crown Prince, but is now a kinslayer, making him disappear after that for a while until this blows over is a really, really good political move.
Yeah.
Which is much more important than making sure he doesn't like have revenge on a Hedge Knight.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point, because
this is my submission.
I honestly, I really like the theory, because you're right. There are 2 distinct times, and I think like probably where people would try to poke holes is like, well, he's off page, like he's not in Dunk Sight for such a brief amount of time. And it is well, it's not like, his helmet does have some significant damage, but it's not impossible to think about if Arion took 2 swings and maybe the chain, I'm even thinking like the Morning Star, the chain would probably be enough to break the dragon. like if it's a lacquered,
oh, if it like swung around, yeah.
If it's like a lacquered crest, then it's not. It may not have been the fatal blow that actually broke the dragon.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
it could be a miss, which what then subsequently like the follow up was like the killing blow or whatever.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that the melee field is they're all kind of on top of each other.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible to think that they would have been near each other, even if Arion was going for dunk. If he could have easily taken a swing at Baelor.
Yeah.
And very well could have been angry at Baelor for taking dunks. I mean, like also Arion's fucking crazy. So like, yeah, he's doing violence. He's a violent man doing violence.
Yeah.
And it could be a combination of things. I don't think all of the Denson and the armor were all from Arion. Maekar is saying that he did hit him too.
Yeah.
But I just find it suspicious also that Maekar comes forward and is like, I sent Arion away. It's so unfortunate that I delivered the fatal blow to my brother. I did it with my mace that I hit him with on the head. It wasn't the Kingsguard. It was definitely me, the person fighting him. I don't remember the final blow, but it must have been.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
It is. No, I really like it. I think the fact that he's controlling sort of the narrative as much as possible is a signal there as well. So
that's I submit that as my theory, or that Maekar. I think if Maekar did it, I think it was by accident. I don't think he was like intending to do murder.
No, for sure not. And that's what I definitely don't think that he meant to do that. And then it's an interesting, the rest of it is interesting because they have a bit of a discussion about the fact that like Maekar is really focused on like what people are gonna say, or at least is prepping Dunk for what he's gonna say, which is it's clear that he's also been prepping other people. Like he's been saying this, I would say a lot, where it's like people are gonna say that I did it, which isn't true, or that I did it on purpose, which is bullshit, and people are also gonna say that you did it. Like, because if you hadn't dragged him into this, like he would still be alive type thing, and so you just have to be ready for that. And it's like, okay, well, you're also probably saying that, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know he's probably telling everyone this, and he's, what he's not saying, Arion fucking did it.
Right. Because politically speaking, like that is, again, like there is a bit of maneuvering going on here with Maekar, who is maybe presented or presents himself as a not political character. Like he's depicted often as like, oh, this is the rough guy, the warrior. He's not as good of a warrior as Baelor, and he's not a politician. He's not like, he's none of these things, when in reality, like of all of the princes, he is sort of the one that is the most political in terms of constantly thinking about how him and his sons are being perceived and how they're like, what's going on and what he needs to do to like control his camp, so to speak. Like leaving the tournament to go find his sons to make sure that they're not gone because people are probably talking shit about me and like they think less of me because my sons are acting like dickheads, whatever. So so yeah, it's a very interesting angle that he definitely is sort of heading people off at the pass here to say like, no, this is like what happened and what you should think about it. Like, don't start making any other, like asking any other questions or making any other assumptions.
It's even possible that like a Kingsguard was the one that hurt Baelor. And Maekar, I mean, there's any number of people Maekar could be protecting, including himself. I mean, it could be that he thinks he was part of it. But yeah, I think the fact that he's picked the narrative that they're going with. And he's like, I don't know. People are talking, and this is what they're saying to each other. Don't know where they got that from. Like, it's very clever. It's a very clever way to, and poor Dunk never thinks like, who's saying that?
Right.
Poor Dunk never thinks like the small folk who were 100% on Dunk's side and against Arion and knew that Arion was the cause of this problem. The small folk are not thinking Baelor died because of the Hedge Knight.
Right.
They're thinking Baelor died because Arion was a dick.
Yeah.
Like go ask the armorer. They're not talking about how this is Dunk's fault.
Yeah, it is interesting that you almost think that there should be some and who knows like how these tales get told, and maybe they're a little bit different in George's world, and who knows how much interaction there is between these villages and things like that. But you would think that the small folk of Ashford, like merchants and stuff who were at that tournament, would probably be telling the story of like, oh, did you hear about this knight that defended this puppet or whatever? Like, or even people being like, oh my God, I can't believe Baylor Breakspear died. And it's like, yeah, I was there. Like, did you hear how it went down? This Hedge Knight stood up
because of his brother. Yeah.
This Hedge Knight stood up to to Prince Arion, who was harming this puppeteer and whatever. And, it feels like it would almost balloon from there. And there would be maybe quite a bit of discussion of this Hedge Knight who, this mysterious Hedge Knight who stood up to like the crown prince, or not the crown prince, sorry, stood up to the prince, Arion Brightflame, and lived to talk about it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing from Maekar. And then Dunk does some reflection about the fact that because Maekar hits him with the, each time a battle is lost or a crop fails, fools will say, like, Baylor wouldn't have let this happen, but some Hedge Knight killed him. And Dunk says, like, if I had not fought, you would have had my hand off and my foot. Sometimes I sit under that tree there and look at my feet and ask if I couldn't have spared one. How could my foot be worth a prince's life? And the other two as well, the Humphreys, they were good men too. And what answer does your tree give you? Maekar asks. And he says, none that I can hear, but the old man Sir Arlen, every day at evenfall, he'd say, I wonder what the morrow will bring. He never knew, no more than we do. Well, mightn't it be that some morrow will come when I'll have need of that foot, when the realm will need that foot even more than a prince's life?
Yes.
And it's like Dunk finally graduated to like, oh shit, like lives are valuable and could be, it could be that someday my life is as valuable as a prince's.
Yeah, absolutely. He hashtag all Hedge Knights matter. He is in Philosophy 201 now and realized that maybe classism is fake. But what a beautiful way to say that, that he's not saying in a highfalutin sort of like, all lives are innately equal and we must value humanity, whatever, anything like that. He's saying like, what if someday the foot that you would have taken from me is needed to save everyone? Like, you don't know any more than I do that's not going to happen. You don't know that I'm not really important, just like the prince that you assumed was really important. And that's like, whew, thank you, George. What a great. And then Maekar is mean about it.
Initially, yeah, he is.
Maker's like, fuck you, classism.
Right.
And he says it's yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that it's like he does hit him with the like it's not bloody likely.
Yeah.
Which felt unnecessary. Because it's
I'm like, excuse me, the name of the book is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's not Prince Maekar. So I think maybe it'll matter.
Prince Maekar has not read the book.
No, he's not.
He's waiting for the TV show to come out.
Yeah, he watched the bad show and thought it was good.
Yeah.
He said, I like the finale. I don't see the problem.
Well, so, that's why he says, or perhaps there are no gods, is because he saw the finale of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But no, he talks about the fact it's like he has this initial sort of stubborn reaction to Dunk's philosophy that maybe my life might matter. And his Maekar is initially mean about it, but then does talk his way around to actually, like, you might be onto something, because I went to the High Septon about like stuff like this, and he told me like, well, maybe nobody can really know what the gods do.
He said God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. Exactly.
Say 10 Hail Marys and go home.
Right, exactly. And so I think like and he says like perhaps he should try sleeping under a tree. And this is when Maekar actually starts to propose actually kind of why he's here in the first place.
Can I just comment on that tree line before we move on to that? So perhaps I should try sleeping under a tree. I love George R. R. Martin so much. Think about how thematically significant just that line is, because we've watched Dunk this whole time struggling to rise in the classes and to not have to sleep under a tree,
right.
but like, dealing with it and like, living his life as a small folk, as a hedge knight at best, and being a person who sleeps under a tree. And yet, in comparison to these people who sleep in castles, he's so much like morally stronger. Like his character is so morally strong.
Right.
And he's so much wiser. Even like he's not like, as like fancy or highfalutin as like the Septon, but he had a better philosophy than the Septon. The Septon's like, I don't know, gods do shit. And Dunk is like, maybe all lives, maybe all human lives are equal.
Yeah.
Like that's a much better philosophy than, I don't know, go home. And the idea of like a Septon or a high Septon, like with the crystal crown and everything, like sleeping under a tree as a way to gain wisdom.
Yeah.
In like a way of like thinking about the perspective of someone else is
right.
Like the whole point of this novella.
Right. 100%.
And the other tie to that is the concept throughout George's works that trees are tied to knowledge, particularly ancient knowledge, because of the weirwood trees. So the idea of like sleeping under a tree and like connecting to nature, or like magically connecting to a weirwood tree and connecting to what is ancient knowledge, and in this case, what Dunk is learning is what I would call in this universe like an ancient fact about humanity, which is that humans are equal, and that feudalism and classism is fake. Monarchy is fake. This is not like the human condition. And Dunk is accessing that through just like the way he lives and thinking about that. So I just like that line of like, maybe perhaps like the High Septon should try sleeping under a tree. Just as like so very meaningful, and I love George and I hate George all at once for doing this to me. I hope that made some sense.
Yeah. No, of course. I think and George like goes to his little computer after he writes this and is like, Blood Raven.
Yeah.
Please something.
He's like, what if the trees were magic?
Yeah, what if the trees could talk?
Let me tell you about some fucking worms. All right.
Yeah. The trees have eyes.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
But then Maekar gets to the point, the reason he actually showed up.
Yeah, he wants Egg to continue to squire for Dunk, and invites Dunk specifically to like serve for him at Summerhall, which is his seat. Specifically, he's like, there's a place for you there. You can train Aegon, like, and we can train you, I think is also what he's like sort of more so getting at, of like, I think this is another classic. There's a couple of things going on here, I think, where Maekar is one sort of doing some kind of like cosmic apology to his brother, of like, I'm inviting this knight in because you fought on his side. He was in the right, and like similar to the Aerion move, even though it might be actually trying to cover up like Aerion actually killing Baelor. Like I do enjoy that.
Yes, come to the dark side. Yes,
right. But this is part of his like cosmic apology to his brother of like, I can't make up for what happened, but I can like take care of the person that he tried to take care of.
Yeah, definitely.
But Maekar only knows one way to take care of him, whereas like Baelor maybe is like, I respect you or whatever. Like where Maekar is like, shut up, you piece of shit. But Maekar's do you want to come live with me? Like
Baelor is like, I respect you. Maekar's like, let's try to make you respectable.
Yeah.
And come and like learn how to fight with a sword, because like I saw you and like, oh
yeah, he's like, not. He's like, we'll get you trained up. And Dunk in this moment, like having had his sort of first breakthrough of saying out loud that his life matters, he is now empowered to also hit the prince with a counter offer, which is something that Dunk of 2 days ago would never fucking imagine doing. But he does. He hits him with the counter, which is like, how about I do it my way?
Yep. He goes like, I'll take Egg as squire, no problem, but we're not going to go sit in a castle. Like, Egg has had enough time sitting in a castle. We're going on more adventures. There's 2 more novellas in this book, and we need to do stuff.
Yeah.
And we can't just be doing it at your castle. And I love that, like, he notices, so when Dunk is like deciding on this, he looks around at the green grass and the reeds, the tall elm, the ripples dancing across the surface of the sunlit pool. Another dragonfly was moving across the water, or perhaps it was the same one. What shall it be, Dunk? He asked himself. Dragonflies or dragons? And then he kind of picks both, because he's like, I'll take the dragon kid, but we're going to go into nature.
Right.
I pose this to our listeners. If you guys have ideas, please leave in the comments. And I do love the comments have been excellent. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know what the dragonflies mean, but they have popped up several times in this 116 pages. At least 3. And I mean, they're always obviously present when Dunk is like out in nature.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they mean. I haven't quite unpacked that. I think I might need the rest of the other 2 novellas to revisit that and to see if that continues in any fashion. But like, there's something very deliberate about like dragons and dragonflies, to the point where like Martin puts it in here, dragons or dragonflies. Like, he clearly knows what he's doing. He didn't say like, there were regular flies or there were water skipping bugs or like the other things that could be on a pond. So listeners, if you have ideas for what the dragonflies mean, please let me know, because I don't.
No,
but it's something.
So yeah, he says that he cites Baelor's words like in this moment to him about the fact that that he swore to be his man, that Dunk swore to be Baelor's. And Maekar's like, again, presumptuous of you. What did he say? Like just, hey, that's weird. Again, I'm just like gonna let you know that I don't think highly of you at every moment. But he said, what did he say? That the realm needed good men. He said that's true enough. So anyways, it's at this point that Dunk really drives his point home to say, hey, I think Egg should squire for me, but we're gonna ride, like, we're gonna serve in castles, we're gonna be, we're going to like travel on the road, sometimes we'll have to sleep under the stars, all this sort of stuff. And Maekar is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
he's like, what? He's like, this is a fucking prince.
Yeah.
What? Like, did the trial addle your wits, man? Aegon is a prince of the realm, the blood of the dragon. Princes are not made for sleeping in ditches and eating hard, soft beef. And then it says here, Dunk, he saw Dunk hesitate. And I just imagine Dunk's face being like,
yeah,
like a big sigh and a like, kind of look. And Maekar says, what is it you're afraid to tell me? Say what you will. And Dunk says, Daron never slept in the ditch, I'll wager. And all the beef that Arion ever ate was thick and rare and bloody, like as not. Damn!
This gets him. And he gets him specifically. It's very interesting because he gets him specifically in a sore spot for Maekar, because we've seen him trying to like work through his sons who are disappointments to him, like throughout this novella, like in the background of this novella, he's like always trying to deal with that. And he touches the exact nerve he needs for Maekar to say, like, you know what, he's kind of right. Like, maybe I do just need to see, like, what would happen if one of my sons learned the hard way, essentially, and wasn't coddled and in a castle and all these sorts of things. And it is, he ultimately acquiesces to Dunk's
well,
Maekar
never responds. Maekar never responds. He looks at him and is like mad and like grinds his teeth and just leaves.
Yep.
And then the next section is the boy came the next morning. So Like, yeah, he did acquiesce. But man, what a good like, oh my god, Aegon's a prince of the realm. He can't possibly sleep in a ditch or eat a hard salt beef.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, yeah, because like the fucking coddling has worked so well so far. Like, you got a lot of great ones there. Good job.
Yeah, it's well, and it's again sort of the classism, you know, jumping out in terms of like Aegon can't live like you. Like, no, I'm doing you a favor by like inviting you to my house and offering you a bed and all this stuff that like you wouldn't get access to any of this if I wasn't offering it to you. Right. And to get flipped and have it be like, no, I should take your son on the road and teach him how to like live like a hedge knight. Or the squire of a hedge knight, like live like I lived. It is like initially truly unimaginable. Like it is something that is outside of the realm of possibility completely, because it's like, no, that's not how this works. We don't lower ourselves.
Right, he's blood of the dragon.
To you.
Like, blood of the dragon can't sleep in a ditch, obviously, because right?
Yeah. They didn't have ditches in Valyria. There was no ditch sleeping. Ditches. No ditches. They were all filled in by dragon roads.
There were no roads. There were only dragon roads and dragons. So no ditches.
Yeah, there were no. So, anyways, like, I just think it's very interesting where it's just so, again, it's entrenched to the point of like, no, I get to choose who I lift up, and the deal here is that we don't ever have to lower ourselves to you, right? Like, there is no situation where we have to understand your circumstance or like live in the conditions that we expect you to live in, right? Like that our society forces you to live in, to survive. Like we can't, like we have the option, and so we would never take it. Like that's just not how we live. Now I do think that like societally there is a level of there's an inherent level of risk of Maekar agreeing to this, right? Of like that your son, you've sent one son away to the free cities, which is one thing. He is going, I'm sure he's going to enjoy the pleasure houses of Lys like quite you know, extravagantly.
And I'm sure he'll come back and nothing bad will ever happen to him. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't do anything crazy or weird.
No, definitely not.
And Daron, you know, is a risk because he is drunk all the time and like could get into trouble similarly.
Isn't there a fourth son? There's another one.
Well, our boy.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
He's away at the Citadel studying very diligently. And he won't make us cry at all at any point in the far future.
No, and he won't get pickled in a cask and maybe drunk by the people on the boat.
Mace Raymond.
So yeah, I mean there is definitely a risk because like you are like he is a prince. Egg is a prince, and like if people find that out, you know. Well, that that is a danger, but I don't know. I guess Maekar is just kind of like I tried with the others, it didn't work.
No,
but what I really like about this section too is that Maekar says, "My youngest son seems to have grown fond of you, sir. It is time he was a squire, but he tells me he will serve no knight but you. He is an unruly boy, as you will have noticed." Egg is what, 8?
Yeah,
or 10? Like. He's a kid.
Yeah. Like I would say around that.
Yeah, I forget if we.
I think it's 8 or.
I think it's 8. I have that in my memory somewhere, but I could be wrong. He's around that age. I love stories of kids bullying their parents into doing stuff. Mostly because I was a child who bullied my parents into doing stuff. Sure. Just like when I was 7, I was like, I shall now ride horses. And my parents said, okay, I guess we'll find a place and you will get you lessons. I was 7. Right. It was great. I'm very happy they did that for me. That was lovely of them. But like, they didn't have to. They could have said like, go play your video games. Like you're 5. A child. Yeah. You're 7, you know?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing where like this kid's like, I want to be a squire. Number Number 2, I will only be a squire for Dunk the Tall.
Right.
And his dad is just like, fine. Like I can't, like, he knows, Maekar knows he won't be able to convince Egg to be a squire for anyone else, because like this kid is just too headstrong. And so really the person at disadvantage here is Maekar, because he doesn't have another option. So he has to agree to whatever Dunk wants.
Right.
If he wants Egg to be a squire.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And yeah, I think he does have I think Dunk's like realization that he has any leverage in any of these conversations, right, is like, that is a new thing over the last 2 pages of the story, when he understands that he does have some power in these conversations and is not but it takes a bit of him, like, and this is where the classism like hits even harder, because it's like it takes him believing the thing about him, which is technically not true, but it takes him believing that he is a knight, and now everyone does unequivocally sort of believe that he is, because he fought in this tournament and won. And now that he also believes it, he is able to say the things that when he just thought of himself as a Hedge Knight squire, sort of masquerading as a knight, he was completely deferential, like in every situation. And the only pushback he ever offered was sort of the like, but sir, but my lord Manfred Dondarian, like, my former master fought for you, and I know the story of your sigil, like, and instead of this where it's like you're telling a prince of like, no,
a prince, I'm gonna take your son on a road trip.
Yeah, we're gonna do it my way, actually.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Big change. But again, it's sort of it's unfortunate because Dunk is like on the side, it's the classism is hitting with Dunk too, where he's like feels confident because he feels like uplifted within this society that he had previously been at the bottom rung of.
Yeah, and I think this also kind of dovetails into the theme we've been tracking of kindness begets kindness, because the only reason he's in a position where this kid wants to be his squire and will accept no one else is because Dunk was such a good knight for him. Like, Dunk was such a good teacher. For the like 35 minutes they had together, he was such a good teacher that, and like made such an impression that like these people all gathered to him, Egg being one of them.
Yeah.
Love that.
I know we've done sort of like a lot of analysis as we went here.
Yeah.
In terms of things. So theme wise, I know we touched on some.
We did. Let me just scroll through the notes.
We talked about sort of the who killed who and all that stuff. And there's the very much George really the metaphor of the broken dragons is just like all over this, right? Like, where it's just like really laying it on thick.
I'm sure that like you could sit there and like make an argument that the particular way in which Baelor's helmet is broken with like one head and 2 wings and like I'm sure you could come up with like some kind of more specific, like the one head represents Baelor, I think that is maybe a little bit of a reach, but I think it's his broken helmet serves the same purpose as the previous broken helmet, which is like it is a symbol of the breakdown of the Targaryen dynasty. In this instance, it being the untimely death of the crown prince, and that causing destabilization within the monarchy.
Yeah,
I think that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And I think because if Baelor, if I remember, is it 2 heads are left on the helm?
Yeah.
So it's like one is broken off and he has 2 sons. So it's like,
okay,
in turn, it could be that simple of like the one head, the head of that particular branch of the family is dead. And there are just the 2, like his 2 potential heirs are the ones like remaining.
There's another theme that is really present in Fire and Blood. In brief, the idea that the consolidation of power is bad, that like the fewer rulers you have, the worse off you are. So as opposed to like the conquerors, like Visenya, Aegon, and Rhaenys, who like conquered together and pretty much ruled together and was like a strong monarchy, when you get down to like fewer rulers, you start to sort of ingrain issues in the monarchy. And so then you have like, you get down to like Jaehaerys and Alicent, who kind of rule together, and then you get situations where it's like really just like one titular ruler.
Yeah.
And that's like then when like the dance happens, right? So the other potential symbol, I suppose, with this particular helmet is the reduction of the number of dragons, Targaryens, being a sign of weakness. Being in this case, the 3 heads are broken, like physically, it's physically broken to be a sign of weakness of the monarchy.
Yeah.
So,
and we spoke about the fact that we spoke about Dunk's sort of discovery of the value of his life, which is obviously like a very small window into the broader theme that we've been talking about like this whole time, which is the systemic and structural oppression and devaluing of people within this society is ultimately its largest weakness. And it took an exceptional and rare moment of kindness from someone who is uplifted within the society, who is like honored within the society, to show kindness to a person who is inherently not. In order for any of this to take place, like basically for Dunk to survive any of this, it took the kindness of Baelor Breakspear, who
that's a really good point.
There was no system incentives, like the societal incentives for him to do that. So he had to do it because he thought it was the right thing to do. Which this is, as we've talked about kind of throughout this podcast up till now too, the incentives built into the society are not typically, they don't align with kindness or being a good person. Even though they say that those are things that they value, the system doesn't actually incentivize those things often. And in many cases tries to actively punish those things. And it took someone stepping out of the incentive, like it took Baelor stepping outside of his own societal incentives and like the things that motivate people, like, and just doing something out of the kindness of his heart, which is a exceptional thing here for Dunk to survive these events.
Absolutely. And I think he adds to that theme of the kindness begets kindness sort of thing, because now Dunk survives, so everything he does for Egg is because of Baelor. But also everything that he does for Egg is because of Sir Arlen, like way back in the beginning. And there's a lot of parallels with Sir Arlen and Baelor, with how they treat Dunk, that they treat him well, that they teach him things, that they help him, that they care about like his well-being. They take him seriously. He's not just like someone they don't pay attention to. And them both dying and their deaths bookending this novel, this novella, is like, to me, draws that parallel very starkly. That's like, it's almost a strong enough parallel to like be a foreshadowing of Baelor's death. So, but it's, I completely agree. But like the kindness aspect is huge for Baelor.
It highlights it. You said it highlights it starkly. It highlights it Ned starkly.
Excuse me. It highlights it Eddard starkly. Okay. His full name is Eddard.
I'm not on a nickname basis.
Lord Stark.
I'm realizing too, because of a Game of Thrones, that these bookended execute, well, in that case it's executions, but the bookended deaths is, George really likes to do that, huh?
Hey, wait a minute.
I'm sensing a pattern.
I'm seeing, is it potentially a motif or a theme? Not another one, George.
Right.
So we did talk a lot about the various analysis throughout, which is great. We talked about the helmet. Themes. So we talked about, I think the big one really is all lives matter, but like thematically, not in a bad way.
Not in a, yeah.
like
no,
like
not
like
in
really.
that way.
Yeah. No, as in like really like humans are equal.
Even poor people.
Even poor people, right? In a classism way.
Right.
All like the
all
and that,
poor people.
all hashtag all poor people matter. And we were sort of talking about this, the fact that like feudalism requires people to think that they are innately better than others or innately worse than others.
Sure.
And the Hedge Knight is very specifically trying to show us that that is bullshit.
Right.
And I will argue that this is a reason why Targaryens are also not magic. So the way the Hedge Knight shows this, we see it repeatedly. So the main character is a Hedge Knight, allegedly. He's not a royal.
Right.
So our whole story is not focusing on like the important person, right? He's repeatedly shown to be of better moral quality and character than the lords and royals around him. I mean, we've got Maekar, we've got Aerion, Daeron. We've got like when he's looking for one more person for his team and he asks all the lords to help and nobody responds.
Yep.
All of these things, like we see the lords failing repeatedly, like morally failing repeatedly.
Yep.
The story rewards him for his goodness and moral strength. And Baelor, who is just one step below the king, so he's like as almost as royal as you could be, dies to defend Dunk. So like normally in a fantasy story, side characters would die to defend the main character, and the main character would be the prince.
Yep.
But this has been flipped on its head, which George loves to do, where the prince dies to protect Dunk. And even though some characters sort of talk about like maybe it's Dunk's fault, the narration never actually blames Dunk. And Dunk never actually blames Dunk. Like he does ultimately defend himself and is like, you know, this is like not my fault. Like what if you need my feet? Which sounds weird out of context.
cut that.
Yeah.
No, and I think that is totally the fact that he specifically doesn't internalize this is all my fault, because he knows that he wasn't the person that instigated the initial fight. Like that was Aerion. He wasn't the person who demanded a trial by 7. That was Aerion. He was he wasn't the person who hit. Like obviously he fought on the same side as Baelor, right? So like he wasn't the person who actually did it. That was Aerion. No,
right. That was Aerion.
We just say it now. That's canon.
And I think that it's within this text. I think the fact that that theme that classism is bullshit and feudalism is bullshit pairs very well with blood purity is bullshit. And this is like a microcosm of that theme that is like present throughout the main series, that like the Targaryens are not magic. They are not innately better than you. They are just the people currently in power. This book drives that home really, like this is really straightforward at this point. Like in my opinion, this novella, like that is the primary theme at this point. In like every aspect of it. So I think that's like the major theme from this first novella.
100%. It is very clear to me, like now having finished this reread, that this is ultimately a book about class. And I think he references it even through the very end. Like Dunk is thinking about and calling himself Dunk of Fleabottom, like consistently through this section, and obviously, you know, throughout the whole book, he references the Dunk of Fleabottom idea, in that he is emphasizing just how disenfranchised he is meant to be in the system, right? Like he is meant to be nobody and do nothing. Like that is what is expected of him. And it shows again that, you know, these lives, you know, these lives do also matter, because
the only person who mentions the Humphreys.
Yeah.
Dunk.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good point.
He's the only one that's like, they also died for me and they were good men.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no one said shit about them up until that point. Like,
they didn't get their own funeral pyres.
Right?
What do you think the Beesbury's death ritual is? You think they get like sacrificed to the hive?
I was gonna say, like, do they like, are they like they like entomb them in honey or something? Like
No, they take the body and they use it as fertilizer for like a wildflower patch. And then the wildflowers grow and then they make honey.
I love that.
There you go. Boom. Done.
See, I like that. And I love the idea of world building through stuff like funeral rites, because it was one of the things I liked about House of the Dragon season 1 so much, because they did Valarion funeral rites, and I was like, this is dope. Like, fleshing things out. Like,
I think that's what's referenced here, actually.
They do say like the Cold Sea, and it's like, I'm thinking it could be Ironborn, it could be Valarians as well.
It could. I think it would be at this time period. I mean, we're quite a ways off from the dance, but the Valarians would have been like a major house until pretty recently. So I that's what I thought it was actually a reference to, because I wondered in the show where they got that from. But I mean, it's not that far off to think like a seafaring people would put their bodies in the ocean, you know. But anyway, sorry.
It's fun stuff. And so we leave our big boy and our little boy on the way to Dorne, because essentially Dunk is trying to find his lost love.
He said, "Where did my girlfriend go?"
Yeah.
He says, "I got to find her and slide into her DMs real quick."
I was gonna say, he looks at a scrap of paper and the last 4 numbers of her digits are smudged. No.
The area code says Sunspear.
Yeah. How do I get in touch with you? So yeah, he's but yeah, they're headed to Dorne. And so I guess in terms of like, this is a little bit of a beefier episode, understandably, because we are like wrapping up the novella in and of itself as well.
One of our commentators said it was fine if it was longer, so
that's
I take
true.
That as full permission to just go.
So we're good now.
So this is hour 1.5 of 3 hours. Buckle up.
You are halfway. No, that's a,
no.
I think what I was thinking is, like, obviously show wishes is something else that we talk about here. This section, it's hard to deny that like almost all of this has to be in the show, but in terms of the depiction, is there anything that you're specifically looking for?
So I mean, what I actually put in the notes was that I wanted them to change it so that Baelor lives and everybody hugs and is happy. But
yeah, I mean, I will certainly, even up till that finale, be rooting for that to happen. Like,
I would not be mad if that happened.
I will be hoping against all hope that
I would much rather Baelor like die in his sleep because like he got the sniffles than like his brain falls out. You know,
subvert my goddamn expectations. Like, for once, do it for a reason I like.
Subvert it by making it a nice story.
Exactly. They pull the helmet off, and it's just like, oh, it looks like you've got a little mark there, but that's it, and everything's okay. Maekar, that was a close one. You sneaky little so and so.
Sneaky dog.
Yeah.
In terms of depiction, gosh, there's so much good stuff. I do wonder what they're going to do with the brains falling out, because I do sometimes think HBO overdoes gore. Yeah. But I feel like that is a scene that does, like, we kind of got to see it.
Yeah.
We kind of got to see it.
And I would say it's been interesting with House of the Dragon specifically, because I honestly feel that they have scaled back on the amount of like graphic, like the amount of gore is actually a little less, with the exception of the pilot, which shows a very brutal scene, and they had me worried actually going in because I was like, oh no, Dan and Dave are here again. Because they were like, we're not going to show like a ton of violence. We're just going to show a lot of violence against women.
Yeah. They said, what if we had violence against women though? That doesn't count.
Yeah, where it was like, well, I'm not going to show you like a guy, like we're going to show like one guy getting his head cut off, but what if we saw like a violent like birth, like, or what if we saw like a, these sorts of, so anyways, season 2, I don't know if it was just because not as much happened. Like the only really violent thing or graphic thing, I guess, that happens is like depicting Aegon's like burns.
There is also the murder of the witch child dies. Jaehaerys.
So
it's off screen.
It is, and that's where it's like it's that was grab. I was worried that there was going to be maybe more there, and I'm kind of glad.
I was glad it was off screen. I thought that was the right way to do it. They did show the child corpse with the head sewn back on in the funeral procession, which was also graphic, but not as graphic as watching an actual beheading.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was just like what happened was less graphic, so maybe they had less opportunity to be as graphic or whatever. But I only say that to say, like, I don't know if they'll go full brains out. Like,
I wonder if they'll do like. Do you remember in the Bad Show when Missandei gets beheaded on the wall, and they sort of do like a Daenerys is in the front of the screen, and like there's the blurry back and you just kind of see the head fall.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if they'll do something like that where it's like, gosh, like part of the screen here. I'm gonna use the YouTube screen. Like part of the screen is like Baelor, and like Dunk is like here, like watching him, and then you see like blurry, like something falls, like flesh falls.
Yeah,
but it's blurry.
That could be.
See them do something like that.
Yeah,
I want a chunk of brain to fall. I need a chunk of brain to fall.
Yeah.
If we see it clearly or not, I don't really care. But I think if we're gonna kill him, we gotta do it. We gotta do a little chunk of running.
Yeah. I think too, like it has the, at the risk of being cliche or whatever, it's like these are the sorts of like moments that can like culturally move the needle in terms of like, holy shit, did you see the finale of the Game of Thrones show? Of which it's gonna get called the fucking Game of Thrones show.
Yeah.
I'm just desensitizing myself to that. But I do think it is a character death that has that level of like weight.
Yeah.
That if it's sufficiently shocking in how it's depicted, then it could add to the amount of like discussion that's generated in terms of like the show sort of breaking through and being not just like people who specifically are like obsessed with this are watching the show, but it's like broader mainstream appeal. I think it has that sort of like,
and it's textual. I mean, it is meant to be shocking in the text.
Right.
It's not only there to be shocking.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not gratuitous, like for the sake of like, oh, I just wanted the guy's brain to fall out, so we made it happen.
It's not like they walked in. Like, it would be one thing if like they introduced Baelor the same episode he dies, which they did a lot in House of the Dragon season 1.
Yeah,
where they kept introducing characters. That was one that was graphic. Laenor's first boyfriend, Joffrey.
Oh yeah,
when Crescent Cole beats the shit out of him, that was a pretty graphic, violent one.
Yeah, that one
in
was
season 1.
rough.
But you're right, season 2 had a lot less. So yeah, I guess my number 1 wish for the show is that they change it entirely and Baelor lives. My number 2 wish is that if he does die, I get to see some brains.
Yeah,
because Dunk describes it as something blue, gray, and pulpy.
Yeah,
I need that. I need a blue. Give me the blue gray. Give it to me, HBO. Give it to me.
With some pulp.
Some pulp.
No pulp or some pulp. Yeah.
It's like an orange juice container, but
exactly.
It's just a brain.
Some
blue gray with pulp.
With pulp, yeah. I would say the same, and then I think like in terms of just in terms of that scene with Maekar, like I just I really want, again, it's sort of the same thing where it's like you have all these characters who don't spend a ton of time on screen in the book, on page in the book. who we need to know who they are, and it needs to be like, obviously Maekar announces himself like in this particular exchange with Dunk, so you won't be like, who is this, because he literally says his name. But just from the standpoint of the audience needs to be established who Maekar is, right? Like it, and so up to this point, like we need to have a good idea of Maekar's character so that this exchange with Dunk is as interesting as it is in the book. Because if it's like, oh, he's talking to the other Targaryen guy, right? Like,
yeah, another blonde one, that one.
Yeah, like that's not going to hit the same as like, oh yeah, this is Egg's dad, and he's very gruff, and he's very like whatever, and by the book, and whatever else. Like, I think it will help things be a little bit more impactful in that final scene.
Do you think in the show they'll do scenes that are not necessarily from Dunk's point of view?
I think they might. I think they almost have to, like, to fill out 6 episodes.
Yeah, I think that could be really effective.
Kind of have to. Yeah, that's true. In terms of like characterizing people, because it's easier to do it on page. Not that it's easy, because George does such a wonderful job of it. But it is easier to do in a shorter amount of time in a book than it is to do on screen, because obviously you can add some non-spoken things in the book where the characterization is like, you have to do a lot of good visual storytelling, and you have to do a lot of good dialogue that establishes like who this person is quickly, right?
Exactly.
And so yeah, some additional screen time for Maekar could be really impactful, and I think that goes for a couple of characters, in just making sure that that people know who the fuck this person is, like, before the thing that they do happens. Because otherwise it'll just be things happening done by various Targaryens and such,
right? And people will be like, which Targaryen was that? What's that? Do you think there will be a magical vision that references the Tommy Dagger and the prophecy?
I hope
there's a dream in this text. We didn't talk very much about it, but like the dream Daron had about a dragon and Dunk killing a dragon.
Right.
Like, you could interpret that if you're gonna do dream interpretation, to be like, oh, it came true because Baelor died and a dragon died.
Right.
He's not a dragon, he's just a guy, but whatever. But you can go that way, and House of the Dragon has gone into the magical mystical and been like, do you remember Game of Thrones?
Right.
So is the Hedge Knight gonna also
I hope they don't try to like whatever Infinity Stones their way into this, like it's like they're still in this I think like the dagger thing was an interesting thing to do with House of the Dragon, in terms of like increasing the stakes of the dance. I don't know what you get out of it if you like try to bring it into like outside of just like supporting the fact. I think like it does start to feel then, like, at least in show canon, the idea of like any person in the universe, like in this show universe, having agency is just illegal. Like, they have to do things because they're compelled to by the prophecy.
It's a magical prophecy. What's the problem? It's a magical prophecy.
And Bloodraven is literally just marionetting every single person on Earth.
That's what the puppets meant.
Oh no!
I figured it out. You got it. You got it.
Tanzel is showing
Bloodraven.
Like, Bloodraven is literally puppeteering.
That's it. Oh, that's what it means. Done. We got it. No, I could see.
Tanzel
like,
is tall like a tree.
Oh my god!
And the tree is a puppeteer puppeting
and the
weirwoods.
And the puppets are wood. They're wooden.
They're wooden,
like the tree.
Yeah.
And the roots that are wooden. Okay.
And Baelor says, my fingers feel like wood.
Feel like wood. Oh my gosh.
Which means that Bloodraven was actually warging Baelor and Maekar, and killed. He made sure that he killed both. Like the one killed him,
but
he was also warging Dunk so that he beat Aerion.
Right.
but he was also warging Aerion so that he killed Baelor.
This is an immaculate theory. No notes, none.
Yeah. It's just Bloodraven. Bloodraven is able to warg whoever I need to for this theory, right? Those are my favorite theories.
Yeah.
It's like Bloodraven did that. For
shits and giggles.
He's capable of whatever I need him to be for this theory.
Right, exactly.
His magic is what is convenient for me.
In like a bad interpretation of Hedge Knight, the Hedge Knight, I could see like Dunk like gets like, he's fighting and he's like punching Aerion or whatever, and then he's like he wins the battle, but then he like loses consciousness and falls out, and then he has like a mystical dream, and the mystical dream is like the wall and like snow and like fuck fire, dragon, all kinds of shit. And then it's like egg in the middle of like a storm, and it's like you must protect him. Ooh, and then it's like the other's eyes, and then Daenerys, remember her? I could
just
see.
re-edit the vision, Daemon's vision from how they just copy paste it in, and then they just put egg in there, like superimposed egg.
Yes, that's it. Boom, done.
No, it's
figured it out.
It is one of those where you're like, you joke about it, and it's not outside the realm of possibility. Like,
yeah,
they've only done it once, so it's a small sample size, but they have done it 100% of the times that they had the chance to.
I joke about it out of fear.
Yeah, no, and that's what
strictly a fear-based joke.
I hope, like, I really do hope that, and this is where we've talked about the concern about the lack of marketing and all that stuff, and how we are like essentially the marketing for the show now.
Yeah, we got you, HBO.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And anything that you think is fair for a marketing budget, we will accept probably. But anything that you think is fair.
We're currently working for free 99, so anything more than that.
And if you were planning on spending millions, I think that's fine. Just like, we'll send you our information.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I might start saying nice things if you give me that money.
But my concern with the lack of marketing is the fact that I don't know how they're trying to market the show, which means we don't really know what type of show they're trying to make. Because I think that we both think that they're probably trying to make a quite faithful adaptation of this, because it's just a damn good story, but we're also very biased because we read the book and we just really like it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought they would have made a faithful adaptation of A Song of Ice and Fire, because it's also just a damn good story.
Right.
But
and
David Benioff and Dan Weiss don't know how to fucking read, so they didn't know what to do.
There's no time.
They said we don't know what a theme is, but it is for an 8th grade book report, and then they stopped trying.
because if it was, if all the depictions we got are like, hey, they're gonna tell a really grounded low fantasy story that has these like slight mystical elements of Daron or whatever, like, but is largely a story about a guy, like a big old guy who shows up at a tournament pretending to be a knight, and like his way navigating through that, and the intrigues and the royalty, the politics, and all that stuff. And this, if it's like, if the show is like 100 years before Daenerys Targaryen or whatever,
it's going to start that way.
It's like, okay, well then you feel like there almost has to be some, like, they feel like there has to be a connection to Game of Thrones for people to care. It feels like they might shoehorn stuff into.
They feel like they have to spoon feed us that there's a connection.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like, we already know there's a connection because we're dealing with Targaryens.
Yeah.
We got it.
For House of the Dragon, it was particularly sort of patronizing, because it's like they played the same goddamn theme song. Like, right.
I'm like, I know. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I know this is gay. Like, if you want me to, I remember Game of Thrones, like, if that's what you're wondering. Like,
right. So like the thing about it is like one of the reasons I didn't love Daemon's vision in the show is like, I just don't like visions like that. But also, like, it's spoon feeding me like what they're doing now matters to the long-term prophecy. I'm like, I know that. Right. I know how the domino effect works. Like, I know like how things lead on to other things. So like,
this is in the past.
Oh, have you read The Butterfly Effect? Oh, hold on.
Past events influence future events.
Fucking, these are the 8th grade book reports they were talking about. But like with Dunk, like the concept that like this guy had such influence on someone really important who turned out to be really important politically. Like I can draw that connection without you putting it in a dream or a vision or some such thing. Sure. But I just feel like they're gonna, because they've picked in House of the Dragon, they picked all the like wrong magical elements, in my opinion. I'm a little bit more convinced in season 2 now about the Weirwood stuff. I'm like a little bit softer on it than I was.
Sure.
But like I don't totally understand like the magical elements they choose. So that makes me worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and maybe even more so the way they sort of mix and match them, where I'm like, is the implication here, Helena like appearing in Damon's vision, like live? You're like, wait, are you saying that like dragon dreamers can also communicate through Weirwoods? Like,
are you telling me that Helena also has a Zoom account and she can she can have a free call up to an hour? Yeah.
How do you get the login here? No, so anyways, yeah, I think my hope for the show is that they lean into, because I think I talked about it maybe last time, but just the fact that they have the chance to tell a really, really cool, like low fantasy medieval story that can also branch out to like a wider audience than just people who like Game of Thrones, right? Like, because it tells a very different type of story. And you still get to include some mystical things and some like, ooh, Darren's having dreams, and Darren, like, this drunk guy just hit Dunk with some weird prophecy.
Yeah.
And you get to decide like whether that's significant or not, right? But I don't want them to be like, this is significant for X, Y, and Z reason.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Like, just let me, like, give me the stakes of the actual thing and let me care about it outside of it needing to be connected to,
basically
Arya Stark 360 no scope.
360 yes scope. She did a half court dunk on the Night King.
Yeah.
Oh my god, a half court dunk. Oh my god, he's part of the prophecy.
Blood Raven was Wargame.
As it is an HBO show, big concern. There is no sex to be had in this first novella.
So there is like their favorite type. Well, there's Dan and Dave's favorite type, which is something that is talked about on page but isn't depicted, which they are like, they would totally be like, this should just be the show of like, if they were making A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Dunk would not just like be walking through the camp and hear the sounds of people like hooking up and be like, should I get a hooker? He would stumble into a tent where they were having sex and then also buy a hooker and like make sure that happened or whatever, where it's like,
and he'd be like, I'm hiring you for the girlfriend experience, tell me you love me. And then he'd be shocked when she didn't love him. That would happen.
And so I think like in general, the whole, I would say they have opportunities to like include something like either implied or like, again, Dunk is walking through and is hearing like maybe the sounds of or seeing silhouettes or something like that. It would be
kind of funny if like he went into the wrong tent and like people, and he was like, oh, he should like, backed out. Like that would be funny. I also wonder if they'll keep Tenzel around longer. Not like to have sex with, but like to be the cute romance interest.
Yeah, I think maybe one additional run-in and like conversation aside, like, and then the confrontation, right? Because it's like they interact, like he sees her once, doesn't approach her. They interact actually once, and then she gets attacked. I think like that first one, they may turn into a genuine interaction. The second one is the interaction where she agrees to paint his shield. Maybe there's a little bit more of a back and forth there than what's on page, like, and more, hopefully some more clumsy dunk flirting of like him not knowing what to say. And then the third one being the confrontation where it's like they've built up maybe that relationship a bit more. But
I could see them keeping her around for the actual trial of 7, but not like out in the open. Like maybe trying to think how they could do it. I mean, they could have her like appear afterwards or something like that and be like, we were hiding behind that bush, you know, like, I don't know. It's fiction. They could figure out a way to do it. It's just
we didn't actually leave.
Yeah, I think they could do something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think knowing HBO, it's something that hooks audiences are romance subplots.
Yeah.
So they're doing a similar thing in The Last of Us right now. In The Last of Us season 2, they're extending the Dina Ellie romance plot. So people are like, why haven't they gotten together yet? And I'm like, because the season is 7 episodes and this was episode 3. So that's why.
Do you understand the pacing or?
Because this is they're doing it differently. It's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's not good, but it's, you know, we're in the nice average space with HBO most of the time. I think those are all the questions I have.
Yeah.
About. It was really good.
It's so good.
So this one I had read before.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually read The Sworn Sword.
Okay. I'm excited.
I know the broad strokes of what happens.
Sure.
So like I'm not like I'm pretty like good about like spoilers and stuff like that. Like but I don't think I actually read it.
I know we are talking a little bit about, and I think we're still fleshing out exactly like what it will look like between the Hedge Knight and the Sworn Sword. But we did want to take some time to like maybe do some episodes just talking about the Hedge Knight, maybe broader, have some special guests, may or may not have some feelers out to some people. And so we'll talk about sort of what comes next, but then we will get into the Sworn Sword in, you know, probably, you know, we'll see how long it is or whatever.
Yeah,
but
so everybody knows part of the reason there's a delay is that I'm currently in finals hell and it's finals time at school and I'm currently being haunted by trademarks everywhere I go. It's they're everywhere and now I know all the law about them and I'm like, was that registered? You know, so it's
that is actually good to know because I am a heavy user of the TM emoji in jokes because I will just throw TM onto stuff to make it funnier. And it's good to know that would not be that funny to you. I
would start having flashbacks. I start having PTSD. I'm like, when did you file for the trademark?
this is my Ashford Meadow.
Yes.
So we'll talk more about like we won't be on like maybe our regular release schedule and we'll be sort of finding our way, but we will in those episodes sort of start to formulate when we're gonna tackle the Sworn Sword and you'll be able to follow us with that.
Listeners, if you have ideas for episodes we can do just about the first novella, pop them in the comments. If there's topics you'd like us to talk about related to this and the potential adaptation too. Like if you want us to talk more about like theories about the adaptation or whatever, like let us know. We take all suggestions. we
can do the most clickbait tier ranking, the casting of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
Actually, what someone had commented on one of the videos was for us, now that we're finished with the novella, to break down what we thought each episode would be.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one too.
Yeah, because I'd be interested to see how right or terribly wrong we are ultimately.
Sure. No, it'd be an interesting thing. So yeah, I think we've got a handful of ideas, and then we'll be back to tackle the Sworn Sword. I'm excited that you haven't read it.
Yeah,
I'm
excited for it.
It is a very different story than the Hedge Knight. Like the vibe of it is very different.
Are you saying there's not whimsy like in this first one? I was promised whimsy. I'm still looking for it.
There's a whimsical note here and there. But again, you gotta grab it out of the wind. You know, it's like you have to pluck it like a dragonfly.
Yeah. Oh, that's what the dragonflies are, the whimsy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
The dragonflies are the whimsy we had along the way. So that
actually
is
not a bad interpretation.
Yep. And that's how, we joke about how the main series will end, but we know that the TV show A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is Dunk just looks into camera and says it truly was a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So
get that idea to HBO stat.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
So we well, I guess typically this would be where we talk about what pages we're reading next time. We're not reading pages. We'll talk more about what comes next, and like we said, drop episode ideas if you have them. We're happy to talk about what you guys would like to talk about as well. And Bielak, where can people find you on the internet?
I have 5,000 projects all the time, so I'm just going to give the two easiest ones: TikTok, sure. Bielak on TikTok. I post a lot of stuff there, and then Bielak on Blue Sky, because when I do anything in my projects, I'm doing better about posting it to Blue Sky, including these episodes. Sure. I'm getting there. Sure. So those are the two best places to follow me, and then through that you can find all my millions of other things. Where can people find you? Obviously this YouTube page, and where else?
This YouTube, and then primarily on TikTok at Damon Bachfire. I am continuing to do just my little political Song of Ice and Fire crossover stuff.
I love them. They're great. They're so
the content is unfortunately never ending. The fact I could shoehorn Canadian elections in like news into A Song of Ice and Fire, that really pleased me.
I just love that I sometimes find out like real news items from your like videos, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on, and I have to go like look at it.
That's it. Yeah. It's unfortunately it's an endless farm right now, and I think I am actually gonna have to tackle the difficult video here soon, which is why the parallel for Trump and Cersei is like it's real and people gotta just start to accept it. Like I get sexism.
Do people not accept it? What do people?
It's people who are big Cersei fans who are like you don't understand, like she's an oppressed woman, and I'm like, no, I do understand like why she is the way she is, but to say that she's not, like if your argument is that I can't say that she is a narcissist who thinks way too highly of her own actions just because of that is like that's just disingenuous. Like I can acknowledge that yes, like this society oppresses Cersei, right? Even Cersei, like a very noble woman, is oppressed in a society that favors men. And like it's not like she is still a crazy narcissist, like who does insane shit all the time.
You can be oppressed and also be bad.
Yeah.
You can,
and
do
it's
both
not
things.
like she's like a great champion of women. Like she treats every other woman in the story like shit. She is
the
like
poster child of internalized misogyny.
Yeah, it's
the wild. Absolute. If you put it, and you looked up internalized misogyny in a dictionary, it's Cersei Lannister. Absolutely, no, she does very bad things.
Yeah,
there's a TV trope about it's not bury your gaze. That's the bad one. It's like protect your gaze or something like that. I forget what it is, but it's this trope that it's sort of a reaction to media often attacking or killing gay characters on screen. The reaction being to go the opposite way and to overprotect your gay characters and make them in like this
can never die.
Nothing bad can ever happen to them.
Yeah.
They're like everything is soft and squishy and wonderful, but it's like unrealistic.
Right.
So, and it's like it is flattening to write a character who's just bad because society thinks they're bad. Like, they're gay or they're a woman or whatever, therefore bad. It's also flattening to write a character that's like overprotected by your narrative.
Yeah.
Because it's also dehumanizing. Like both are dehumanizing because in both situations, you're treating the character as that identifier as opposed to a person.
Sure.
That's why a character like Tyrion Lannister is so interesting and so fleshed out because he has a disability. He's a little person in a society that does not accept that whatsoever.
Right.
He is also a bad person.
Right.
He is at best morally gray. At best.
Yeah. And
but that's what's interesting about him. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. No,
So,
it is.
no.
It is funny because it was like, well, you're a man, so you must just not get it. And I was like,
Oh.
no, that's not it. Like, but
No.
now I feel like, but now it's gonna sound like I'm mansplaining to you, like why, why this isn't. And so now I'm like, cognizant of my own internalized misogyny. Like, so, anyways, so yeah, I'm doing fun things over there. That's basically it. But yeah, we will I hope everybody enjoyed the episode. Thank you for reaching the end of the Hedge Knight with us. This is a big meaty episode.
And the end of the episode. I was joking when I said 3 hours, but we did make it pretty far.
We did go too. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us on the journey. And until next time, I guess we'll see you on the road to Dorne.
Oh my gosh. Yes. All right, guys. Talk to you next time. Bye.